Hello, I'm Pastor Jonathan, and you're watching the Bi-vocational Ministry channel. Okay, today I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's kind of going on in our lives. I'm standing on a piece of property here that I'm inheriting from my parents. Yes, I grew up out in the middle of the woods. Yes, I'm a hillbilly. It's just a fact of life. I grew up out in the country, and this is a piece of the property that my wife and I are supposed to be inheriting from my parents. It's about 20-some minutes away from the church that I pastor, and we are clearing it. What you see all around me has been cleared in the last month and a half, 2 months maybe, and we're starting to prepare it for one day, hopefully being able to build on this land and build a house and be able to live here. And because I grew up out in the country, and my wife and I have talked about it, hopefully one day we're hoping to be able to live out in the country. And but right now, what we're preparing it for, because that's a few years down the road, what we're preparing it for is to use it as a retreat center. It's a beautiful piece of land right here. I've talked about with my family and all that. And over here, there's a natural spring that that has been there. We call it the frog pond, but it's not really a frog pond. But it's a natural spring that drains out. I'm gonna clean that out, make that look better. There's Old Creek. There's a creek that goes around the whole property here. And you can't see it, but behind you, there's two huge hills, and they're all separated by ravines that have creeks in them. And then back here, there's a little bit more property back here that hopefully we're wanting to build one back there one day. But right now, we're hoping to make it make it a retreat center. And we've done quite a bit of clearing already here, and we're working back there today. As you can tell, a little bit dirty. But one thing that we're noticing is this process that we're going through is one step at a time. Yeah, we had an idea of what the property would be like when we got here. I grew up on the land, so I kind of know it, you know what I mean? A little bit. I've been back here a number of times, but this place has been so wooded over the last number of years where it hasn't been kept. It's all been natural. That hasn't been sawn down or anything. But so we didn't know the exact landscape of what was where we're at right now. We didn't know exactly how all the landforms. We found little valleys and hills that we did not really notice as much before, because now we're clearing, and we actually are noticing more land than we knew was here. Compared to the creek beds, that things are more than we thought they were. But as we're going through this process, our minds are changing of what this will look like. Again, we want to make this a retreat center. We already have a place for a chapel that we're going to build, and a place, of course, I'm going to put a barn back here to hold my equipment that I have, and we're hoping to turn this into a retreat center that we can use for ourselves, our family, maybe others' families, and perhaps do a few church events out here where we can come out and have a fire and just get away as a retreat to seek after God. And so that's the plan, Lord willing. Lord's always able to change that at His will, and He very well may. But right now, that's our plan. And again, as we've been on this process of drawing, finding out where the new property lines are going to be, because I have two other brothers, finding out how all this is going to shake down, my wife and I have been walking the property lines, and we're not fully done, but walking the property lines to find out exactly what are we getting and what can we do with it. And there's a few things we expected, especially me, because I lived here. But there's been a number of things, probably more than what we expected, that is things that we did not know was actually here, or did not know the condition. More banks are washed out than we expected. There's a lot of dead ash trees because the ash borer that has been killing them. We've got a lot of dead trees. You can't see them, the camera, but there's lots of dead trees here that need to be cut down, because if not, they're going to fall down and perhaps hurt somebody. So there's so many things here that is some predicted, some not predicted. Right now, we're just in the beginning stages. We had an idea what we wanted to build the house. We had an idea how we're going to reroute some of the creek to be able to give us a little more land, and some of that is actually changing as we go through the process. And as we're getting to know the landscape of what we're doing. This is technically uncharted. Even though we've lived here for many years, no one's actually cleared this land to see the actual landscape of how it looks. And so now it's kind of an uncharted territory, at least for us. And we're learning things along the way. And again, one thing that this kind of reminds me of is ministry. You can go to school, you can get a PhD, you can do all that, but there's only so much preparation will help you with. There are certain things that each ministry is going to have unique to it. Whenever I'm inheriting this land. This land was unkept in the sense that it was able to naturally grow by itself over the last my whole lifetime, and so it's been able to be growing, and so it's been unkept. And there's so many things I'm learning. And when you walk into a church that necessarily needs revitalization, or maybe doesn't need revitalization, you're just walking into a new ministry that you don't know a whole lot about, you're going to learn things along the way. Don't feel as if, well, I can't do this because I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't feel completely prepared. You're never going to be completely prepared. Just like my wife and I, we don't have the money to build and start purchasing all this equipment and all that. No, but we're just in the beginning stages. We're looking at something that's going to take a number of years. It's going to take a lot of investment and time to make into the retreat center or retreat place that we want to make it. And if you would, we're trying to think of names that we could call the retreat center. And so if you could, this is back in a holler, we don't know. So give me some ideas. Go to the comments, give me some ideas what you think we should call a retreat center. What would be a good name for a retreat center? But again, it reminds me of whenever you're in ministry and you're starting on this journey of your serving in this church, you're inheriting. When you start something from the beginning, when you're birthing a ministry, you could set all the parameters. You know that right from the beginning. But when you walk into a ministry that's already established, you're inheriting a few things. You're inheriting a ministry that's established. That's a good thing. You're inheriting both the good and the not so good. And so when you walk into the ministry, some things are going to be pretty predictable. You could I'm predicting that they write books because some things are just that predictable. But then some things are not that predictable. Some things you're going to learn along the way. I know that in our church, there were certain things that I could have predicted, and I called it out months in advance, sometimes a year or so in advance. I'm like, this is what I see this transpiring. Sure enough, a year later, it would happen because it was that predictable. Not that I'm that smart. It's just that predictable. And but there are so many things that I learned along the way that I would never, even if I would have went to school for another 4 or 5 years, I just wouldn't have learned them. I wouldn't have known exactly what they were. So when you enter into uncharted territory, especially for you, when you're inheriting something, an establishment or a ministry, and you're going into that ministry, just know there's going to be things that you can predict, and there's going to be things that are going to be completely unique to that ministry, kind of like land. There are certain things, and you're going to change over that time. You have certain ideas and plans and visions that you feel like this is what this ministry will be like. And as you go with that ministry, as you work with those people, as you work with the circumstance of that ministry, you're going to find out, wow, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Oh man, this is really strong. We need to capitalize on this. Okay, and all the time you're in tune with the Lord. You're praying, you're seeking God about, okay, Lord, what's my next step? Remember, the Word is a lamp unto our feet to give us the next step. The Lord's not going to tell us the entire journey. But just like uncharted territory, you don't know what you're inheriting. You don't know exactly. You might have an idea. You might know the size. It's like, we're going to be inheriting a little over 5 acres, perhaps a little more. And you might know some of the demographics of the church and the community you're in, and you might prepare like that. But there will be, and there has to be certain things that you will learn along the way. Every community, both in like cities and towns are different, are unique. And churches are each one unique with their circumstances, with their challenges, with their strengths, and all that. And so a lot of this is uncharted territory. So if you're walking into an established church, you do not know what you're inheriting, all of it. You might know some of the demographics, you might know some of the numbers, but you don't know what you're inheriting. I know that in the ministry I was in, when I walked into it, there was so much that I just had no idea that it was even in the church. It was a problem in the church. I found out some of the reasons it had the certain challenges it did later after I joined, and that kind of helped, and praying through wisdom, asking God for wisdom on how to handle those things, bringing the church through its challenges and capitalizing on its strengths and using that as a tool to reach that community. But again, when you're going into uncharted territory, when you're inheriting something you have no idea or very little information about the past about, best thing you can do is ask questions. We have 2 members of our church that are founding members. And I sit down with them, I just ask questions. What was the church like? What has the church been through? What have you seen? What have you experienced? Just getting their insight and learning. And they're going to be biased, just like every person would be, but you're still going to learn. And so learning what you're actually walking into will mean quite a bit to you. And so I guess the whole point of what I'm saying here is you'll never walk into a perfect circumstance. You'll never walk into a ministry that everything is hand in glove and everything is just a perfect fit. It's just not going to happen. And when you enter into ministry, there will be uncharted territory. And as you start working that territory, clearing, or whatever you're doing, you're going to learn some things about the landscape, the spiritual landscape that you're in. I don't mean to be all metaphorical about it, but there is quite a bit of application here that I think does apply, because there is a landscape of your church, and there is a certain bit of uncharted territory that you don't know, that you've never been into. And I'm just telling you now, be flexible. When you go in there, don't be so set that it has to be, certain way. Again, be set on stone with the Word of God, but be flexible about the situation your church is in, the situation the people are in. Look for creative solutions. This land has some really wonderful things about it. Sorry about that, guys. My camera battery's died. So anyway, again, you're walking in uncharted territory. And ministry is very much, like I said, it's very much of walking into a situation that you might not know everything about, and you're working with people with circumstances you don't know much about. And so if the Lord has called you to it, do it, but just realize that there are going to be certain things that you're going to handle and approach that you did not expect to handle and approach. So when you move into uncharted territory, uncharted ministry territory, territory that you know very little about, get information. And just realize that taking time to get to know the territory you're in or get to know the people, that's just going to take time. And to be flexible with what's going on. And ask God for wisdom and creativity to learn how to navigate that circumstance and navigate that territory in ministry. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and conclude this video, lest it be too long. And thank you for joining me today. Again, if you would, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please like this video if you were blessed by this video today, and subscribe to the channel that you may receive future videos and future videos. Give us some names. Whatever you think. What do you think a good name for a retreat center would be? And that's what we're going to work towards right now. So may God bless you. May God bless your ministries, and as you seek to serve your Lord, we pray that God give you wisdom to take that step, to move forward in ministry, and to be bold in the gospel. So have a good day. God bless.